sturdy at all, some bits and bobs, so I'll leave it with you.
Thank you. Well, good evening, 146. Now, I must congratulate you. I'd like to start my little chat on what I saw at the Armistice Parade, and also what I've seen tonight. It's very, very good to see chaps and girls marching around here, not slouching. Many sergeant major and power of the I can tell you. I happen to pay that compliment to your CEO, that demonstrated for the pitch, and I said, I know what I'm talking about, I was an ex-cadet in the squadron, and eventually, after national service, came back to the squadron as a civilian instructor, and took commission, and 4 years after that, I went back to the civilian side and served on the civilian committee for 15 years. So I've done quite a bit of 146 following the names. I hope when we've finished the chat, if you've got any questions, you can shout out. Because I'm as old as I am, I've got it written down, that's good. I've got it written down here to remind me what to say. You've already been told that I was a cadet in the old days of 42, 43. The squadron, of course, started just before that in, I think it was 38, 39, when it was the old ADC. Was that the Air Defence Corps or Air Defence
Air Defence Cadet Corps, yeah.
Air Defence Cadets, that's right. And almost straight away it became the Air Training Corps. And it started in Dock Road, the HQ you've just left. Adjacent to that was a tannery, and the managing director of the tannery put a big room at disposal, and that's how the squadron started. And he was the CO, and he'd been a pilot in the First World War. Anyway, very, very shortly, we moved up to schools next door, and after again a short while, they moved back to Dock Road, where there was a big house available and outside buildings and a parade ground. So, which is the parade ground that you had down there was still there in those days. Went on, the house had to be demolished because of the development of building, and the new temporary, well not temporary, but prefab type of headquarters was built. And of course that stopped until you moved over here. So that's a thumbnail of where we are. Looking at his notes to make sure he's not. Oh yes, there's the next CO after Mr. Dutton was in fact Mr. Osborne, who also had been in the Royal Flying Corps in the First World War. So they were two jolly good COs who knew what they were talking about. Right, now, probably the best way to talk to you now is to recall my service with the squadron, and that of course has prompted me to make a search down into memory lane. So if we set the calendar right, 1942 to 47 I was a cadet, from 47 to 49 I was in the National Service for the RAF, and back to 146 Squadron in 1960 to 65, and then as a civilian committee member for another 15 years. Now, for those of you who can think back to what you've read and what you've been told, in 1942 it was middle of World War II, and it was then that I became a probationer for 14 years, 3 months, to become a fully fledged member of the squadron. At this time of the period, of course, the RAF were looking to the ATC as a good recruiting source, and of course to be a member of the cadets was an almost sure way of getting an acceptance into the RAF. Not always, because a good friend of mine just happened to go for his examination when they were short of signallers in the army, and in spite of all he fought, he still got put into the army. And the strange thing was, he did more flying in the signals back into to India and the Far East than a good many of the air cadets experienced themselves. Now, as a result of this war problem, the Air Ministry supported squadrons with their redundant equipment, and we received down there the fuselage of a Beaufort bomber. Now, the cadet here is going to flash these up for you, and that is a shot of a Beaufort. Some of you have probably seen this in books, but not in real life, because they soon stopped. This aircraft was built by the Bristol Company, 2 Hercules radials, and was used mainly as a torpedo carrier in Coastal Command. Another gift to the squadron was a complete airspeed Oxford. Now, that's the next shot on it. Yes, that's it. There's the Oxford. Again, I don't think there's certainly any of those flying. There might be the odd one or two in the museums. And we soon had this mounted in an attitude like this, with the tail blocked up, and it was a boon to the training for airframes, engines and signals. Now, the Oxford was known as the Ox Box in the RAF, and it was built by the Airspeed Company of Portsmouth, and it was a development of a very small airliner, the Envoy, which was flown in the King's Flight in the 1930s. Mostly it was used for pilot training, but that one, as you see, has got a gun turret on, and it was, in fact, the Oxford where I got my first experience flight with RAF Greenwich. Now, this was an exciting time, 42-43, for anyone that was interested in aviation. We were surrounded by active airfields around here. RAF Greenwich, you have heard of that, no doubt. I hope anyway, near Middlewich, yes? Yeah, not the odd nod. There was RAF Carvely near Nantwich, HMS Black Cat, which was the Royal Naval Air Station at Stretton, RAF Greenway, which is now Manchester Airport, which was the School of Parachute Training, and the Avro Factory at Woodford, and not to forget the RAF at Harden, and was it AV Rose there, or De Havilland, I think, started, and they were building aircraft, and later the American 8th Air Force Base at Burnwood near Warrington. So this was a huge maintenance base, and you can well imagine the air around this area with a continual flow of aircraft engines from a vast variety of aircraft. Now, without appearing too morbid about this, you will all appreciate, I know, that aircraft have got a habit now and again of falling out of the sky for a variety of reasons: enemy action, pilot error, weather, mechanical failure, and so on. The nearest incident to the squadron was in Hertford Village. Has anybody heard of that incident? 1944, April, when an Armstrong with Albemarle, right? Let's see if we've got an Albemarle. Yep, that's the Albemarle. Was doing some low flying over the village and hit the chimney of a house and several trees. Yes, it really was low flying. Regretfully, of course, it was too low and a bit of dust. Now, several of us were in the vicinity at that time, and we helped to search the site and the incident for possible survivors. Sadly, only the aircrew survived, and that was because as the plane crashed, the turret tore out of the plane and rolled over into Chester Road outside the shops, and they managed to get him out. The police and fire brigade came along, and they could make the site safe until RAF Greenwich came to take over. Now, sad incidents like this do remain with you. And although designed as a bomber, the Albemarle spent most of its time in service as a driver tug, and that was its main use at the D-Day landings. Well, the next shot is of an Anshin, and again, I don't think one of these is flying today, is it? I've not seen one knocking about. But that was another shot near here of an air incident